All right, our bumblebees are completely dry. So for this card, I'm going to use a circle punch. I like the smaller size because that circle die that I had, it was the smallest one that I had, and it's a little bit too big for this, and you end up seeing a little bit of the card base. So I'm going to use a punch. Now the only thing with the punch is I'm limited as to how far into the paper I can go. I want to make 3 holes for this particular card because I've got 3 bumblebees there. And for each of the bumblebees, I'm going to need a penny. Now, if you don't have pennies, you could also use washers. You just want something that's got a bit of weight to it. As I've found, I've tried to do this with just like cardstock circles, die-cut cardstock circles, and it just didn't move as much, and I think it's because of the weight. So keep in mind that because we're using, for this particular card, 6 pennies, it's going to weigh a fair amount as well. So perhaps this is best not a technique not done on cards that you're going to mail. Perhaps better for ones that you're just going to hand out in person, just because of that weight, because it's kind of silly to pay extra postage for just having a heavier card in this case. And it's also going to be a little bit wider because of the foam tape and stuff like that. So unless it's a special person. All right, so now we've got our pennies on there. I'm going to put some really good double-sided tape on there as well. And I've got room. I'm going to put 2 strips. And then I'm also going to use some of my Distress Collage Medium on it as well. Distress Collage Medium works well both on paper but also on non-porous surfaces. So just the double-sided tape plus the collage medium, I know it's not gonna, the bumblebees aren't gonna fall off. Sometimes the tape, even if it's really good tape on a something like this, like a penny, it doesn't like to stay super well, especially if it happens to be a really dirty one. I tried to choose clean ones to do this, but it's always good to have 2 glues doing the job. If you don't have Distress Collage Medium, Glossy Accents will work on this as well. You're not going to see it. It's going to be completely hidden, so you don't need to worry about some seeping out and being glossy. But so I'm hiding those pennies right on the bodies of these bees. I do put it up towards the top of the bee, so there is just a slight bit of the penny showing, but it doesn't take away from anything at all. I found if I put the bee too low, the wings were kind of heavy, and they would kind of always, when I would turn it, they would always face down, whereas if the pennies are a little bit higher, it doesn't really do that. All right, so now that those are in, I'm going to put my foam tape down, and now make sure that we don't have it anywhere near those pennies because we don't want to restrict their movement. And we already know from the last card that I need 2 layers here. So I'm just going to turn the camera off. I'm going to do this, do my 2 layers, and then I'll show you what I've done. All right, I've got the foam tape there, and you'll see right beside the pennies I cut my foam tape in half, so there'd be half a width. I didn't want to be able to see the penny from the side underneath the background, so that's just going to hide it a little bit. So take all of my backings off here. Now I tried to make sure to keep away from the penny so it wouldn't restrict any movement, so keep that in mind when you're putting your foam tape down. And I also like a little bit in the center just to help support it a bit. So make sure that your card is facing the right way. And then lay it down. Got my sentiment here. I'm going to cut it in pieces. And for the sample, I only did 2, actually I'm going to keep it that way. I only did 2 pieces because I had that space, and because I've changed where my bumblebees are, I'm actually going to put it right here. And once again, if you haven't seen a class where I've used the Distress Collage Medium, I like using it to glue things together because if you get a bit of glue seeping out, it dries completely matte And it's clear and completely matte, so you don't ever see where the glue has seeped out. So I've got my gold pen, and I have a different one from the last card. This one is actually working a lot better. Just add a frame. If you wanted to, and freehanding this bothers you, you could do this ahead of time and do it with a ruler so that you get a little bit more precision. I kind of like the look of the freehand and the imperfection of it. And the last thing I wanted to do was just add just some kind of dashes as if they were from the bumblebees flying. Once again, it just adds a little bit of a sparkle to the background. Now, obviously these bees are going to keep moving, so they're not going to be in the same spot, but I just like the look of that in the background. So there we go. Our second card that rocks back and forth is completely done.